Hello, my lovely she's. Welcome to episode 2 of She's Made for Love, Interview Bites on She Network. This is an extension of my upcoming book, She's Made for Love, Agreements for Self-Love and Character Strength. I am Joy Leng, and in this show, we are going to explore the 10 agreements that is featured in the book with special guests. Today, we are going to explore the second agreement, my best is good enough. I would like to invite you to do this quick experiment. Say this out loud. My best is good enough. How does it feel saying that out loud? Do you feel like your body and mind was agreeing with the 5 words? Or do you feel like a fraud? Your first instincts will reveal where you stand with this agreement. For most part of my life, my best was certainly not good enough. Whatever my achievement was, it was just not enough for me. Because deep down, I didn't think I was enough. Worthiness was this ever elusive dream. And also, I had a need for perfection. Everything that I do must be impeccable, regardless of the cost to myself. Sounds familiar? This is sadly also deeply entrenched in our culture. As women and in all the roles that we play, there is implicit and even explicit expectation that we must stay on top of our game all the time. In addition to that, being in a mostly male-dominated society, we are never equal with men, no matter how on top of the game we are. And we wonder why women struggle with this agreement, my best is good enough. And we wonder why women struggle with self-love. Being deeply committed to doing our best, allowing our best to be good enough, is a fast path to inner peace. Today our special guest is Ratna. She is the CEO and Chief Trainer for Lead Consultancy. Apparently Ratna is also not a stranger to the challenges of embracing self-love. Let's find out what her challenges are and see if you can relate to some of them too.
Good day, ladies. This is Ratna, and I'm part of the She Network community. Thank you, Joy, for having me today on this segment of She's Made for Love. We are talking about the second agreement, which is my best is good enough. I've faced a lot of challenges when it comes to honoring this agreement towards self-love, because firstly, I didn't know what self-love was all about. For the longest time in my life, my whole being is to love others. And in loving others, I believe that that is part of self-love. I was totally wrong, of course. Now, when you talk about my best is good enough, I never thought that I was good enough. I never thought that whatever I did was good enough. And this is one of the challenges that I face. And this challenge is stem from listening to the opinion of other people. When other people come and tell me, oh, you should have done it this way, or that was not the right thing to do, or, you could have done better. And I believed them, and it became part of me, so much so that I felt so worthless at times, and it really, really diminished my self-esteem. So when you feel like that, self-love is nowhere to be found. The second challenge that I face is not only do I believe the opinions of others on me, but I am also my worst critic. So I have opinions about myself that didn't help at all. I always believed that I could do better. I could have done better. In fact, during one of the training sessions that I did for Petronas, and I had raving reviews from this group of managers that I was training. And when I came home from the training, my husband asked me, so how did the training go? And what did I tell him? I told him that I could have done better. See, my self-belief was so low that I didn't think that my best was good enough. So it hurts the self-love element, because I didn't think that, I was worth loving, because I didn't do well enough. I was not perfect. What I failed to see was the third challenge. And the third challenge was to remember that I was created by a loving God who created me fearfully and wonderfully in my mother's womb. And He has created me in His image and His likeness. And hence, how could I not be good enough? How could I not have done well? That would mean that God has made a mistake, that God has forgot to put some elements of wonderfulness inside of me, and that is really, really wrong. So I have learned along the way to start believing in myself, to know that my best is good enough. And I've also learned that I am worth loving. That's all for this particular question, ladies.
Wow, as you can see, even with raving reviews as a trainer for big corporations like Petronas, Ratna still can feel the challenges of self-love within herself. We all have unkind narratives about ourselves that we need to start unwinding. Ratna had several too. She equated loving others as self-love. And just like me, she thought that she was never good enough. And she also based her own self-worth on the opinions of others. And woman's most favorite narrative, she was her own worst critic. Awareness is the first step to positive transformation. Which of her narrative could you relate to? And what other unkind narratives are you carrying within yourself? Coming back to the second agreement and why it's important for self-love, let's hear Ratna's sharing.
Is my best good enough important for self-love? Definitely. Because when I felt that I was not doing well enough, when I felt that my best was not good enough, I tend to knock myself down further, and I tend to be really hard on myself. And you know what happens when you're hard on yourself? You stress yourself out to do better. Now, my best may not be as good as someone else's worst performance, but that's okay, because that's me. That's the level that I can do, and that is good enough for me. When I don't believe that my best is good enough, what I do is I walk around feeling like I'm useless and hopeless, and I can't even get things right. I can't get things done well, and that does not help my self-esteem. At one point when I had that belief, I started walking around with my shoulders slumped and my whole demeanor depressed and upset that why am I not good enough? Why can't I do things the way that other people can do things? And it's just not fair to myself, because even though believing that my best was good enough is important towards loving myself, I first have to get over this barrier, believing that everything I do is good enough. And when I was able to do that, my self-esteem starts to grow. When my self-esteem starts to grow, I start to be more confident, I start to behave, I start to verbalize all this truth about whatever I'm doing, it is good enough. Perhaps not for you, but for me, my best is good enough to carry me through my life. It does not matter that other people do not share your belief. It only matters that you deepen your belief that your best is good enough for you, that whatever you have done is beneficial to those around you. So when you are able to do that, your self-belief becomes much deeper. Then you carry yourself much more differently than when you don't believe in yourself. So when your self-belief increases, it helps you to remember that you can do anything. Everything you do is fine. Everything you do is great. And that helps because you generate this aura of being able to influence people with your positivity, with your belief. And when people see you and they hear you, they start to catch whatever you believe, that your best is good enough for you and for them. And they start to also alter their opinion of you and of themselves. So it's a win-win for all of us. But definitely the agreement of my best is good enough is very important towards self-love. Unless you believe in yourself, love is going to be really far away.
Ratna beautifully highlighted the many ways that the second agreement can support us. It builds our self-esteem, improves our morale, manages our stress level, and influences the way we carry ourselves, the way how others perceive us. And I love this one the most. Remind us to believe in ourselves regardless. Which area of support would be really helpful to you right now? And how can we incorporate this agreement, my best is good enough, more into our daily life? Ratna has a really simple suggestion that you can apply immediately. Let's check it out.
My best is good enough. So how then do we incorporate this agreement into our daily life? So for me, I always believe that whenever a verse or a word of affirmation is required for myself to start the day, what I do is I'll put it on post-it note pads like this one, like this, and I will paste it on my laptop or on the wall next to my desk, because this would be the first thing that I will see when I come into my office to start work. Or we can also write it on the bathroom mirror. Put it there. My best is good enough. It is a reminder. We need daily reminders to remind us that our best is good enough, because there is a lot of noise around us that is trying to convince us that we are not good enough. We didn't do enough. Our best is not good enough. So we have to intentionally put our hands to our ears and stop these noises from getting inside of us. We have to stop listening to all the naysayers that is trying to drum into us that we need to do better, we need to be better, we need to go further. It is not something we want to be feeding ourselves in. You know, when you are doing carpentry work, for example, and you are banging a nail inside a wood, you don't put the nail there and knock it once and twice and expect it to stay put for a long time. You need to keep on banging that nail until the nail head is flat with the wood. Then you know that it is solidly embedded in the wood. It is not likely to come out. Same thing with making sure we incorporate this belief, this agreement that my best is good enough. We have to drill it into ourselves daily, on a daily basis. Put it anywhere you can see it, anywhere visible. Put it on the mirror, put it in the dressing mirror, put it in the hall mirror, put it at the back of your door, put it on your ceiling before you go to sleep. Just keep on reading it and affirming it, and you will remember it for a long time to come. And once it becomes part of you, you will be able to actually live out that belief, live out that agreement, believing that your best is good enough. And when you do that, you will see that everything you do will be excellent, because you have basically turned the eyes, your own eyes, towards looking at things differently, towards being more positive, towards being believing that your best is good enough. So incorporate it daily into your daily life, put it everywhere you can see it, and remind yourself, my best is good enough.
Having daily visible affirmation, turning our ears inwards, be a detailed carpenter for ourselves, repeat. Remember, by committing to doing our best and allowing our best to be good enough for ourselves is a fast path to inner peace. Our best is going to vary from moment to moment, and that's just being human. Commit to doing your best and let it be good enough. It is time to weave new threads together. It is time to weave a web of deep, unconditional self-love with the 10 love agreements. May the agreements be your inner wise counsel. Today, let's focus on weaving this thread of my best is good enough together. Which part of our deep dive today did your heart reach out for? Move in that direction. Thank you, Ratna, for being such a marvelous guest. Thank you for showing up and taking on the enormous task of self-love. How would you live if your best is good enough? How would you live if you remember that you are made for love? With all my love, this is Joy from She Network.